Speaking of eyes, you have pretty eyes.
Oh, thank you.
Welcome.
What color are they?
I don't know. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode here on Milwaukee Beer Review. As always, I'm Josh.
And I'm Ross.
And today we are heading back to Three Sheeps Brewing Company out of Sheboygan, Wisconsin, and we've got a special treat here with their Veneration, and we've got two different versions of it to try here and compare on the channel. So we've actually got the standard Veneration, which is a bourbon barrel-aged, actually a whiskey barrel-aged quad. It is aged with molasses and figs in whiskey barrels. And then we've got the recent release, which is the 1792 bourbon barrel-aged version of the same beer with molasses and figs. So we're going to try both of those today.
And this is rye whiskey, right?
It is rye whiskey.
Yeah.
The 1792, however, was a pretty limited release. You had to get in pretty quick to get those, so I have not tried that one. I have tried the regular Veneration. I don't know if you have or not.
I might have. I've tried so much from Three Sheeps, it's hard to know. It's hard to keep up with what I've actually had at this point. So
Yeah, fair enough. So we're going to try both of those here on the channel. So a little bit of a different beer from what we normally have. We drink a lot of stouts on this channel. Let's dive into a Belgian quad.
Good. Yeah,
so. Quads are good. So let's get a little nose on the base Veneration, if you can call it a base, Belgian quad. God, that smells good.
I mean, those figs and everything, and that dark fruit really comes through in this.
It smells like a barley wine.
That's exactly what I was thinking. I think quads and barley wines are very similar.
Mm-hmm.
They have very similar profiles, very similar color, very similar taste to them.
It's a great note. Like,
yeah.
It's a very creamy, sweet.
Yep.
I think to your point, the molasses and kind of the fig characters come
yeah.
through. Pretty heavy on the nose.
Yeah.
But very barley wine-esque scent on the nose of this.
Yeah.
And this is the 2022 release. I think they released this in December. So, solid nose.
Yeah.
Check it out.
Yeah.
Cheers. Oh, man.
Super tasty.
Yeah.
Again, I know we've already kind of talked about it a little bit, but like, it is very close to like a barley wine type style. It shares a lot of characteristics. If you didn't tell me that this is a Belgian quad, I would probably say this is a barley wine. It tastes just like a barley wine.
Yeah, mouthfeel on this similar to a lot of the beers, light to medium, somewhere in between. Not a ton of viscosity to this. There's not supposed to be. The flavor profile and the palate, like whiskey front end. You get whiskey, but it's very smooth, very sweet. Middle of the palate, you kind of that creamy molasses fig note, and then out the back it just kind of finishes very, very sweet, similar to a barley wine. Very, like we've been talking about, very, very barley wine-esque here. I don't get a lot of traditional Belgian quad characters. Like a Belgian quad, you tend to get that Belgian yeast note. You get a lot of the traditional Belgian characteristics. I don't get a lot of that here. This is just very, very sweet, but good.
The only Belgian characteristic I kind of get, and it's might not be a Belgian characteristic, there's like a slight like clovey taste. Like right at the back end, it's a little there, and it mellows out kind of the sweetness that you kind of get from this in a really good way.
Yeah.
And you get a little bit of the traditional Belgian at the back end, but for the most part, you already said it. It's the fig, it's molasses, it's that slight like spirit sweetness coming through.
It's really good, very full flavored, like solid beer.
Yeah.
So, Veneration, the quad, where would you put it on Untappd?
I'm going to go 3.75. It's really good. It's really tasty. I love the flavor profile that comes out of it. If you're picking up a quad, you want to live one of those quad characteristics. However, the fact it just tastes so good, it's got those barley wine characteristics to it, kind of makes up for the fact that maybe isn't that quad traditional taste that you want.
This thing comes in at 13.7.
Yes.
ABV. You'd never know that. It does have a boozy character to it, but not a crazy boozy bite to it. I kind of want to roll with you at a 3.75. I think I'm going to give it a slight bump up to a 4, though. I think this is a really good beer. This is very drinkable, and I think Three Sheeps did a good job with it. I do think some of the Belgian characteristics of it are being overwhelmed by some of those other adjuncts here, the figs, the molasses, but it's a really solid beer. It's really good. So I'm going to go with a 4.
All
right. So what's up next?
Moving on to the Veneration 1792. So 1792 is a Kentucky bourbon. Regarded. I mean, we kind of looked into it a little bit. It's a mid to upper tier bourbon.
Yeah.
It's not a lower end. It's
somewhere
a
along the lines of Woodford Reserve, Knob Creek.
But we've heard some really good things about this one. I know you were saying you've heard people who've had it, part of the Barrel Society members that have really enjoyed this one. So we were pretty excited to get our hands on this one because you said it was a rare release. This one comes in slightly lower at 12.5.
It's on the bottom of the can. Let me double check.
Yeah.
So
prepared.
Yep, you're right.
So prepared. Yeah, so I mean, we expect a very similar flavor profile, but with the rye, you get a little bit of sweetness. I think the bourbon's going to have a little more, not harshness, but a little more spirit forward. So this is what I'm expecting.
A lot of people rave about some of the 1792 stuff Three Sheeps has done recently, so I'm curious how these two beers differentiate. They look very similar.
Yeah.
Out of the glass, I can't tell the difference. They look almost exactly the same. So let's get a little nose on the 1792 Veneration. Very similar nose.
It is very similar. It's kind of like the barley wine characteristics, but slightly tamed, I think.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
I think the regular Veneration has a little bit more nose to it than the 1792 does. Agree. But the nose, the characteristics coming off the nose are almost identical.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's give the 1792 a shot.
Cheers.
Cheers. Interesting.
So it's got a smoother mouthfeel than the first one.
Ultra smooth.
I'll be honest, I'm not getting as much of a flavor profile as I did out of the base. I don't know if we're calling it a base, but the previous Veneration. This is good. It's very smooth. But again, like on the nose, on the palate, it's everything you had in the first one, just tamer. It's all there. It's not as there.
It tastes thinner.
Yeah.
And I think it's because some of those fig and molasses characters you get out of the regular Veneration are not as prominent here. I do like the bourbon characteristics of this. It's a very similar viscosity, mouthfeel to the first one. I think you get a bourbon hit up front, but then after that, you get some of the same malt characteristics that you get out of the regular Veneration, but the figs and the molasses kind of play second fiddle. They're not as prominent, which makes the beer feel, if you try these back to back, the 1792 feels less complex.
I agree.
There's less complexity to it. There's less discernible characteristics to it. I still think it's really good.
Yeah.
But I feel like between these two, I would choose the regular Veneration.
I would too. I think it gets packed more of a punch. It's more full flavored. It's, with rye, you get a bit of a bite too and everything. I like that bite. This has a very good spirit note. As was mentioned a few times already, it's very smooth. It's more drinkable. And that's, I would say, it's a more drinkable, more like a light feeling beer. I can see myself drinking multiples of these before I drink more of the first one, just because it's a lighter beer.
You're saying this is a sessionable 12.5%
You get what I'm saying. So I wasn't going to say that, but yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. I agree with you. I like the first Veneration better. You know, if I'm putting this one on Untappd, I'm probably going a good 3.5. It's good, just not as good as the first one. I want more of that full body flavor that you get from the first one. So I'm going to say 3.5.
I really like the bourbon characteristics of this. I actually think I might like the spirit character of this more than the base Veneration. That being said, the base Veneration has way more character to it. The figs, the molasses, are all prominent and a big part of that beer, and so I think it's a little bit better. I'm going to put this at a 3.75.
Okay.
I still think a really, really solid beer. But if I'm going to buy these two, and the 1792 was more expensive than the base Veneration, let's be real about that. I don't think this is better than the base Veneration or the standard Veneration, and I'd put it at 3.75.
And when we say that, because I think we both, you went 4, 3.75, I went 3.75, 3.5, right?
Yes.
Something like that. So it's not that, like, I think that for you and I, we really like barley wines. So that's why I think we latched to the first one a little bit more. They're both really well-made beers. They're both very, very well-made. They're both very good, everything. And I can see why people who like quads would like this more. It makes sense to me because this is, the figs and molasses comes out so strong in the first one compared to this one. I understand why people might like this one more.
But even you saying that, though, I don't think this has a ton of quad characteristics.
That's fair.
It's still very barley wine-esque. Versus a traditional quad. But I think both good beers. You can't go wrong with these. No, these are very good drinking beers. Like, these are solid. So good stuff here from Three Sheeps. So hey, thanks for checking out the video. If you've tried either of these versions of Veneration, let us know. What do you think in the comments? Are we completely off here? What's your opinion on these two releases from Three Sheeps? Check us out on the rest of our social media channels. We are on Untappd. We are on Twitter. We are on Facebook. We are on Instagram. We are also here on YouTube. So like, comment, and subscribe, and we will see all of you in a future episode.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.